All right, so we're going to go through the rest of this PowerPoint. This one is going to be on knives and some of the uses and how to handle and sharpen the knives. Um, Knives are probably the most common used piece of equipment in the kitchen. Uh, they're used for almost all cooking preparations during mise en place. They all have a design specific purpose. So you need to know what knife you're using for what job. Most knives are going to be made out of stainless steel. We do see some varieties of that made out of ceramic or other materials, but in most kitchens, they're going to be made out of that. There's two main parts of a knife. You have the blade, which is the cutting surface. This is the metal portion. It could be forged or stamped. And basically the process of that is a stamped knife is basically metal that's been poured into a mold, and then it is then let to cool and then forms that stamped knife. Or forged is where they actually take a piece of hot metal and they actually will start to hit it to get it to the right shape that they're looking for. Okay, and then we have a handle. Okay. A forged blade, like I said, single piece of heated metal, struck with a hammer, okay? Stamped, thin sheets of metal that are either stamped out or poured in. Here you see a picture of a common chef knife. You have your handle. Sometimes they call this the tang. This is the butt of the knife. You have rivets that'll sometimes hold the knife tang in the actual handle. This is what they call the bolster of the knife. It's the part of the knife which is the end or the heel. A lot of times you'll hear that portion of it. That's where you're going to take and use that part when we're trying to do something that's tougher or harder. We have the spine of the knife, which is going to give it the balance, our cutting edge, and then our tip, and then this is the blade as you're going down. The tip is obviously used for more delicate work, paring, trimming, and peeling. Cutting edge, depending on what you're doing, you're going to use different parts of it. Now, edges can be serrated. They can be flat and tapered. There's a lot of different sections that we can have on our knife. The spine is obviously the top. It's a non-cutting edge. It's the portion that is used to hold the knife's stability, okay? And then we have our heel, which is the thickest part of the blade, used to cut through whether we are going through like a bone, a cartilage, something like that. Bolster is where the blade meets the handle, okay? The tang is, like I said, a full tang will go through long all the way through the handle. This is a better made knife usually. A partial tang is a shorter piece sometimes found at, will go into the handle. Like I said, the rivets hold it, handle, end of the handle is the butt. These are a lot of the classic knives that you'll see in the kitchen. The chef/French knife, all-purpose knife, chopping, slicing, mincing, 8 to 14 inches long, tapered down to the tip. This is the knife that you're going to use most often in the kitchen. It's used for most chopping or cutting. We have a cleaver here. As you can see, it is a much wider knife, heavy, rectangular, chops through all kind of food, good through cutting through different parts of bone or stuff. So it's much stronger. This is a Japanese style knife, Sudoku. It's a general, like basically chef knife, but it does have these gratin, which is actually notches that you'll see that it will release from food easily. Okay, so you'll see those a lot of times. A boning knife, thinner blade, flexible, used to bone, separate raw meat from a bone. Then we have a slicer knife here, used to It's long because it's used to slice through large cuts of meat, but it gives you that even cut, one cut, instead of having like those jagged edges as you're going along. Serrated knife, sometimes called a bread knife. It's used to slice breads and cakes, things that you don't want. You might have a little bit of a tougher outside and then soft inside. Tomatoes, it works well with to get through that skin. Paring knife, smaller knife used to the term pare or trim, basically fruits and vegetables. Tournée is a bird's beak knife used to do a cut, which is called a tournée, which is like a little football shaped cut out of vegetables. We have a steak knife, obviously used more in the dining room, maybe to cut through a steak or whatever else. Then we have our clam and an oyster. A clam knife is usually going to be short, a blunt edge, but it's going to have like a little bit of a sharp edge on one side to put into the rounded edge of a clam, where a oyster knife is going to have a point tip, but it's short and stubby and is used to shuck an oyster. When it comes to knife care, honing a knife with a steel is very important because it removes like the burrs, the little metal shavings from it, and keeps it sharp. Kind of like if you think of the idea of a pencil. On a pencil, basically what happens here is you have your tip here, and if I were to continue to scrape this down, it would continue to be able to be right. It wouldn't get sharper, but it would continue to get right. To sharpen it, we would actually have to use a pencil sharpener, or for a knife, a sharpening stone. And this is where the steel actually will hone the knife, okay? We have different, some are made with ceramic, okay? Some are made with diamond. Some are made with like a honing steel. They're just used to, like I said, hone or maintain the blade. A sharpening stone will grind and hone edges. You want to use the knife and drag it across at a 20-degree angle. It usually passes over an oiled or a watered stone. You don't want to do it on a dry stone. An equal number of times on each side so it keeps that even blade. Proper care. Knives need to be kept sharp. A knife that's sharp will actually cut you a lot less times than a dull knife because of the pressure and stuff you're using. You need to keep your knives clean and dry. Obviously, never soak a knife in water. Never talk or point with a knife. Do not hold it out in front of you. Do not distract others while using a knife. Do not obviously try to catch a falling knife. We can always replace a knife. You can't replace, if you cut your finger or something off. Store the knife in knife kits, racks, or something that is safe, and never hand a knife to somebody. Always place it down with the handle towards the person. Here are some knife basics. We've kind of went over this a little bit, but it shows you two different styles of holding the knife. As you can see, there's not one that has the finger on on the actual spine of the knife. Okay, but you can see wrapping over the thumb, or more of one that I would use, gives you much control. Guiding hand, like I said, using that claw grip into a C, holding that thumb back. Okay, you're holding it, bending it, making sure that you can cut. There are 11 classical cuts. We have started to go through a little bit of cutting, but we will do a lot more throughout the year. We have our large dice, which is our 3/4 inch dice cubes, medium dice, which is a 1/2 inch. Okay. We have small dice, which is a 1/4 inch, and then Bernois, which is an 1/8 of an inch. So basically smaller and smaller and smaller cubes as we go down. Bassinet is going to be basically kind of like a French fry cut, 1/4 of an inch by 2 inches long. Julienne is an 1/8 of an inch by 2 inches long. We have a rondeau, which is basically a straight circle, 1/4 inch, diagonal, 1/4 inch ovals. And then paysanne which is basically like a Scrabble piece. It is a square that is 1 inch square by 1/8 inch wide. Chiffonade is where we would take roll up herbs or things like that and cut very thin slices. And then this is that tournée that I was talking about. It has 7 equal sides, kind of looks like a little football. It is really important that we do cut things the same size so they cook evenly, they look nice, they distribute flavor, okay, and all these things are achieved. So these are a bunch of the things that we're going to do as we're utilizing our knife. You're going to make sure you pick the right knife for the job. You're going to make sure you know how to use it properly. You're going to know how to properly clean it, properly sharpen it, okay? And then from there, we can do a lot of cooking. Thank you very much.